All right, you guys, it's Mrs. Anderson coming at you again. Today we're going to talk a little bit about symbolism, common symbols in all literature, but really specifically in the Great Gatsby. There are a ton of symbols in the Great Gatsby, so we want to talk about those, and then we'll get into our American Dream discussion. So colors. Colors are hugely symbolic. So how do you think these are, symbols? And we would normally have a conversation about that. But today, they can represent emotions: love, anger, sadness, passion. Red is very symbolic of love and anger and passion. Blue of tranquility, peace, sadness, even fear sometimes, or death, because of the fact that a corpse would eventually turn blue. Yellow, spring, a turning over of a new leaf, sunlight, light, freshness, happiness. Shades of green and brown suggest nature, peace, a sense of hospitality, unless it's in a desert. A desert is always barren and arid and suggestive of not new life. Okay, water. So some of the ways that water might be symbolic. It could be a religious symbolism. So that could have to do with baptism, a purification, or a death, with the idea of drowning. It could be negative, it could be positive, and with all of these symbols, there's always that negative or positive side to it. And it's most likely purposeful. So it can be peaceful, depending on the scene that they're producing. Maybe it's a very peaceful lake, or maybe it's a roaring river, or maybe it's a tranquil stream, or maybe it's an ocean wave crashing, right? So all of those bring about different ideas in your mind when thinking about peaceful or violent things. Okay, fire. Fire can be very symbolic of anger, passion, love, pain, death. Sometimes it can be a form of rebirth. The phoenix in mythology suggested the idea of rebirth, and it actually, as it aged and grew and died, it burnt and then was reborn from the ashes. Some of you who may be Harry Potter fans are thinking, wait a second, no, that's actually based on mythology. So kind of interesting. If the story you're reading mentions fire, then you want to see how it's being used. Is it a destructive thing? Because if it's destructive, that's obviously negative. Or was it, something that brought light and knowledge and maybe a zest for life and growth? So looking at those things. Also, did a character learn a vital lesson due to the fire? Was someone injured, or was there a fight? Think about the lessons and how the element of fire is being used to really see how you think that symbol might be working. Okay, night. Night is usually connected to darkness, acts as a cover of the world. It's an end of the road symbol as the sun goes down, the end of the day. Shadows, tranquility, death. If you think about, for the most part, when you have a horror movie or something like that, it's usually set at night. Bad things happen when the sun goes down. But there's a lot to work with when there's night that can also be really positive, like the moon, the stars, comets, and asteroids, and space, the fact that you can see that a little bit better. So, there's two parts to each character as well. You've got a night and a day, a good and a bad, these different sides of a character. So day is kind of the opposite of night, right? So you've got that rising sun representing new life and light, fresh start, beginning for characters, a new beginning for characters. It describes things that are out in the open. It's difficult to hide and deceive things when it's light. So day is to truth as night is to lies. You've got that almost zest and newfound hope in the day. Okay, light goes hand in hand with day a little bit there, but it's usually symbolic of truth, possible enlightenment, safety, even can be used as a holy image, good, or for power. It illuminates truth. It brings forth things not seen in the dark. If you have a bad character in fiction, often they are hanging out in the shadows, whereas the really noble characters are there in the light. So then going on with dark, the opposite, we've got the lurking in the shadows. What does that mean? How does that work? They're darkness and hiding and evil, and often the characters in the shadows are hiding something. Maybe they are trying to hide themselves, but they're often also hiding a characteristic or something. They could be hiding information, objects. You've got death, the Grim Reaper, or the Angel of Death. Okay, now these are some really important things you want to keep track of, and these are those things I mentioned I would normally have you write on your bookmark. Maybe write them if you have an ebook in Notability or in the front cover of your book, but you want to be looking for the green light, the Valley of Ashes, the East and West eggs, Wolfheim's cufflinks, Gatsby's speculation, automobiles, parties, and I can't even see what that last one is, but you want to be looking at some of those things and trying to figure out what they might be symbolic of as we move ahead.